strut.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mortgage and Real Estate Podcast by Pinnacle Home Loans. My name is Chris Giannino, and today I'm joined by Pete Giannino and Bill Lally. Gentlemen, let's get after it today.
Chris. Pete, good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Talking real estate. We're really thinking about, just having a conversation that we're talking about is, one thing that I've heard since the very beginning of getting into this industry, probably just a shy under 10 years now, is that, this isn't the right time to buy. It's not the right time to buy. It's not the right time to buy. You don't want to buy at the highest. You don't want to buy. So 10 years I've heard that. And I still hear it today. I know there's people listening to this. I know there's people who have had the thought in 2020 that was too high to buy in 2020. Since then, we've gone up 40% in values, so there's people sitting that are just kicking themselves. Why didn't we buy that investment property in 2019? Why didn't we purchase that house in 2020? But that was definitely a time, I know you guys remember, that was definitely a time when everybody was saying, you don't want to buy now, it's too high. For sure. Almost everybody we talked to. So I want to reiterate that it's almost never, even professionals can't pinpoint exactly when the dips are. Even the professionals, 99% of day traders, professional day traders lose money. 99% of them lose money. So even the professionals that study the markets, study the charts, look at everything, they still lose money. So I think you really have to look at just buying the house at the time when you need to buy the house. And don't go into too much of the investment on it or whatnot. If you need a house and you're looking to buy a house, the long-term historical figures are there's not a better investment in town than a house. And I think part of what people realize too is that you got to look at it like this. The house doesn't increase in value, really. It's the dollar, the United States dollar, the Federal Reserve note, that is decreasing in purchasing power with the amount of money that is put into the system. When we put more money into the system, that dollar loses its purchasing power. So now it costs more of those dollars to buy the same asset or the same property that it did before you injected all those dollars. It's pretty clear. They just injected 40% money in 2020 with COVID and everything. They injected so much money into the system that it goes hand in hand, the value of the dollar and what the dollar will purchase. It's going to take more dollars to purchase that same property before they did that. And that's the spike that we're seeing. I don't think that it's over by any means. It is, I know in the 70s, I believe it was the 70s, from 70 to 80, or it was 80 to 90, I think it was 70 to 80. From 70 to 80, the average home was $23,000 in the 70s. It could be 60 to 70, but it was $23,000. 10 years later, the median home was $63,000. So it's almost a 300% increase in a 10-year span. Okay, so I'm not saying we're going to have a 300% increase per se, but I am saying that it has always increased over that span, and it picks up steam since we've started charting this. Even historical median home prices from I think it was 1910, 15 or so. It started out with being $3,000 or $1,900 was the median price in 1915 for a home, and it's slowly crept up, and now it's $555,000. That's an amazing return on your investment. I don't even know I guess gold. It's probably up there with gold for the house.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. Another great return on investment is just living in a house. You might just want to live there.
Well, exactly. I've started to. It's great to be grateful for things, right? Gratitude is a wonderful gift you can give to yourself in your life, but I've started just saying my house is basically paying me. I'm looking at that as true income because I'm living in this house. I'm looking at my house as it's paying me, as this investment. It's paying me to have this house. And I don't look at everything like that by any means, but the house it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. We kind of started this discussion today before we flipped on the mics by considering people's fears. And, if you fear doesn't really make sense, right? I mean, if you are scared about buying a house, that probably means you're actually thinking about buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
People who aren't scared are either prepared or they're not looking. If you're scared, you're not prepared or you're not looking. So we kind of thought maybe we should talk about those fears because, you talked about value and we obviously there's been talk about interest rates. And so those are kind of some of the overwhelming fears. And we were thinking about ways to dispel those fears, attack them, eliminate fear so that you can use that energy on preparation.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I kind of always thought that they call it the Great American Experiment with the whole monetary system that we have in place. And you can look at it in several different ways. But the one thing that's for sure in economics is that if there's more currency, then it's going to take more of that currency to buy that same thing. And the currency that is in the system right now is more than ever, So I think that ultimately it's just going to continue to go that route as it has. And we're talking about winning the deal. Like, don't spin your wheels on going over by $5,000. Most of the wanted neighborhoods are gonna go over the price, the asking price, even right now because of inventory. And the biggest thing that we're seeing is the people who are winning the contracts actually win. I mean, think about the people even a year ago, the people who were going in with the quick closings, taking out contingencies, going over. Even in Missouri, it was 8% year over year with the February numbers. We're up 8% year over year still. And, you're worried about going over the asking price by a few $1,000s. Well, then you're just going to spin your wheels for another couple of years.
Yeah.
That.
People are hoping to be able to tell the future. Like you said, the currency is not likely to be the injection of currency is not likely to cease anytime soon. So if you're just hoping that values are going to go down, rates are going to go down, you're going to miss out, and that hope will turn into nothing, unfortunately.
Right.
And that's not to criticize the public. The fear is being created. So we understand that perception is out there. Those concerns are out there, and that's why we're having this discussion. Because we think it's misplaced. Right. The energy needs to be transferred. If you want to, people who've wanted to be an entrepreneur will try to buy a house these days. That'll teach you to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Well, and I also think this. We were talking, if rates go down, you might have more buyers, but the inventory is not going to miraculously shoot up. And that's not going to happen for a long time unless everybody and their brother becomes builders, and even that it's going to take.
And guess what? If rates go down, and you bought a house today, then you can still take advantage of that.
Refinance. So you're in.
Right.
You're in at that point.
And if the values did not go down, then you might even be in a better spot.
Right. I mean, ultimately, if I've spent so many hours and diving into it in this situation, but we're basically it's a debt system. Every dollar is basically debt. I mean, that's the system that we have. So and it comes from one bank. If one bank loans $1 out to the society, then the society owns that bank $1 plus interest. So let's just say that the society owns $2 back to the bank. Well, society can't just make another dollar appear from somewhere. It only comes from the bank. So they have to borrow another $1 to pay that debt. They have to borrow another $1 from the bank to pay that debt. And so they might borrow $3. They can't give back everything to the bank because then there's no currency in the system and it doesn't work. So you can never pay off the debt, and the debt will only continue to get higher. The only way to pay off that debt and have money is to print money from the bank, more money. That's it. So it's going to perpetually, when you print more money and put more money into the system, assets rise in value. Really, the dollar is falling in value. But the assets, the house, rises in value. That's where we're at. I mean, it's a perpetual thing.
And just to cut to the chase on what you're talking about, I mean, the asset is the home. And so buying the home now or in today's economy provides an opportunity for future growth and value, but it also, just going back to it, also gives you the place you want to live now.
Right.
And that's really what this boils down to. And so what we're seeing is a situation, and I know you and Chris and I are always talking to realtors, but you guys have a wealth of experience in terms of those relationships and kind of connecting what the borrowers are doing and what the realtors are doing to ensure that everyone wins. In other words, that our clients, that the realtors' clients get the house they want. Otherwise, you're kind of spinning your wheels, right? I mean, everyone's taking their time to go look at houses, to get their tax returns filed and provided to their lender. They're sending the MLS reports. I mean, there's a lot of time invested for people to make 3 and 4 and 5 offers on different houses and lose out on every one.
Right.
So that tells me that there could be more. Those houses are being bought by somebody, and they're not all just cash buyers. So that tells me that more can be done by buyers with loans, with mortgages, to win deals, and they're just not accomplishing that.
Ultimately, I don't see anybody who's able to close as fast as us with as good of deals as we have.
Well, speed is clearly can be an attractive feature from a seller's perspective, right? Like some sellers want that cash now. Maybe they want to buy something. So if they know that they can get a deal, they can have their cash in hand in 2 weeks, 10 days. That can be a really valuable asset.
Yeah, I mean, all people really need to do is go to Zillow. I mean, go to Zillow. It comes from a lot of public, good, strong data of actual sales. That's what gives the values, past sales. So we're always a little bit behind on really what Zillow's saying. That's why most sales are a little bit higher than what Zillow is, and it should be, because it's always coming from past data. But everybody you could go look at your house right now. If you have a home, in the past month, it's anywhere from 2.5 to 4.5% increase. If you have $1 million house and it increased 4%, this is just 30 days. So if you have $1 million house and it increased 4%, you're $40,000 more. In 30 days, your house is worth $40,000 more. Well, I mean, are they then going to raise the price? The thing is that you could go over the list. Then maybe they listed it 10 days ago or so. That data wasn't even out when they listed it. They were seeing whatever. All of a sudden, you got a great deal right off the bat because of the time that passed, and that's everybody's house. You look at I don't see one, especially desirable market in the St. Louis area, St. Charles County area, that went down in the past 30 days.
Right.
They're all up.
And some we know from experience, and it's not a secret that sometimes the listing price, oftentimes maybe in this environment, is not intended to be the purchase price.
Yeah, there's games.
The listing price is a starting point for ping pong and what have you.
Right. So some of that data that comes out is always skewed because, I mean, if they're saying most houses are going over list or most houses are going under list, well, it depends on how the real estate agent's playing it.
Yeah, that doesn't mean
that
doesn't mean the purchase price is overvalue. A lot of realtors know, or sellers know, that listing at one price will inspire a higher price.
Right. I mean, but at the same time, 30 days later, it's $40,000 more.
Exactly.
30 days.
Exactly. Even at where it ends, up.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. We're supposed to be providing some value. Or that's our intention. Maybe not. We're supposed to be. So you mentioned speed. I know Chris has always got great insight into talking to realtors and stuff, and we were kind of almost thinking of a checklist of sorts of things that should be used in every transaction to give yourself the best chance of success in winning the deal.
Yeah, I think the very top of that list is to educate real estate agents, to educate our agents So they believe that going over is really the best the best thing to do for their client to actually help their client.
Yeah.
Because if they don't believe that, if they believe that they're buying too high, what we're telling you is that you got to, all it takes sometimes is, $5,000 over asking price. The house went up $25,000 in the past 30 days. You can win these contracts by being smart, but you got to believe in and know the market. Like with your clients, forget about the actual purchase price, whatever they're listing
list
it
price,
at, right? You got to believe, know the market. If all the market's going up 3, 4, or 5%, in the past 30 days, which it has, when you see that house listed, and let's say it was on the market for 15 days, and you see that, well, they didn't have those numbers prior to that. So right then, that if you just go over a little bit, you're really more in line with the market than what it was listed at anyway. And you're going to get the house.
I'm trying to think of an industry, and one doesn't immediately come to mind. It'll be obvious, but we know that real estate is not an industry in which you're trying to see if you can steal a good deal right now. Like, and I use the word steal lightly, but to say, okay, let's see if I go 20,000 under, if I can win this one. That is
it's not a foreclosure heavy market.
That's exactly, yeah. So
or inventory for that matter. I mean,
and with our sort of quasi checklist of sorts, we started with price because that's what we're talking about. We've been talking about the values and how they've been affected and what the prices could be going forward and how the dollar affects that. So we know, and certainly recent experience supports the proposition that going over makes sense.
Absolutely.
If you're making an offer and you're if you're actually making an offer for the purpose of getting an executed contract, generally speaking right now, and of course you're doing your homework, but going over makes sense. That's one thing. It's basic, but so then what happens then? If you're looking at this place, you're going over, and let's say how else can you enhance that with respect? You see this property, you like this property, this is your one. One of the most common areas that creates consternation in a transaction concerns the inspections. And so if you're looking at a house and you think you might be interested, bring somebody with you. Bring somebody to, check out the house with you. Who could that be? Like your uncle.
Right. And yeah, I mean, Chris mentions this all the time. Absolutely. It's going to show you is that the house was well taken care of just by the condition from visual appearance. I mean, this isn't like something you got to get a microscope just use your eyes, see the house, look for cracks, look for cracks in the basement for sure. But besides that, for the most part, it's not going to have just disintegrate. You're kind of
be reasonable.
There's a reason why the lenders, I often say this. Sometimes people are like, I don't know if I should sign that piece of paper. I'm like, listen, right now it's 100% financing. Someone's giving you a loan for $250,000 that they've never seen you before. Don't you think they should be the ones worried?
Right.
Like, you're not giving them anything.
Yeah.
Like, so
an appraisal may be required.
The lender does not require
an inspection
for a reason. They don't necessarily. If the lender's the one that's truly kind of buying it.
That's right.
They're the ones buying it. So you're getting an inspection. I guess you're kind of helping the lender out a little bit.
So it goes beyond just, obviously we're just starting with the inspections, but it goes beyond just making the highest offer. It means making the most attractive offer. That's what we're talking about. And how do you? There are factors which contribute to the most attractive offer. It's not always the highest price, but 10 other contingencies. We're talking about creating an attractive offer that can be welcomed by the seller because it provides peace of mind to the seller and something that the buyer can actually execute. So we talked about price. We talked about inspections. Another thing we touched on is appraisals. I think that might be an appraiser calling you right now. I don't know.
It sure is.
So with respect to appraisals, the main thing is addressed in the contract is the appraisal rider. That's an option in the contract. It's not a requirement in the contract. Again, some preparation would give you what you need in that. We have tools to help you know what the value could be and whether an appraisal might even not be required, might not even be required by the bank. So, you've been able to do that, right? Like you've told some borrowers in advance, hey, you're not going to need an appraisal on this property.
Definitely. I mean, especially if you're putting down, a significant amount, if you're putting down 20-25% already, there's a good chance that the lender will not even require an appraisal at a given value,
And guess what? That we're not all about just making the offer attractive to the seller. If you don't proceed with an appraisal and one's not required, then you also save yourself some money as the buyer because there's a cost to an appraisal. $5, $6, $7, $8, it could be up to $1,000 depending on the timing of it and the location.
I mean, what I'm seeing is basically if you have to be very, very aggressive right now, and you don't even have to be aggressive. Just be smart. You don't even think it's not even like you're being aggressive, really. I mean, being aggressive would be maybe 10% over or something like that. I'm not really saying that, and even that would be fine. Think about it. In 2020, you missed a house because you weren't going to put 10% more over the asking price in 2020. You missed out on a house because that went. What's 40% increase since then? 40% increase since then. You
missed out on 10%.
Not only do you miss out on living in a house, you're probably still looking for a house, but you missed out on that huge increase in the value as well.
So it's like anything in life when you think about what you. Again, not to be critical, but we're trying to save people time and create opportunities. If you have made 2, 3, 4, 5 offers and they haven't worked, then we need to reevaluate the process. Are you prepared as much as you should be? Are you simply following what's considered a traditional model of making an offer, checking all the boxes, making sure 6 contingencies are accompanying your offer, and making sure the seller has to look at this and say, oh, the buyer can get out of this deal 6 different times. If that's the approach, and if inventory is in fact down, which evidently it is, then to use a term in the industry, you're foreclosing your opportunity.
Right. I mean, we've won plenty of deals because it's Pinnacle on the pre-approval.
Right.
I can tell you right now, if you have an out-of-town bank pre-approval, many agents just throw those. They don't even look at it. Even if it isn't in town, like a Bank of America, if it's a big Bank of America or U.S. Bank has had its good times and bad times. I've heard horror stories. I've heard great things. So, they might not take that chance with them. With us, it's 5-star all the way across the board. Everybody knows we're local. They know how much experience that we have in the market and in this industry and how long we've been doing it. We have great relationships with countless wonderful professional agents in the market. So when our pre-approval comes along, well, that's good as gold. So right there is one advantage. That is a huge advantage. One thing that we love to do is if the listing agent did not recognize us, because we get a lot of phone calls that do recognize us and say, hey, Bill, I see this pre-approval. It's a little bit less than what our top offer is, but we know you. We know it's going to work out. I just want to have a quick conversation with you, make sure that everything's good, and I tell them, how qualified the buyer is. But that's also things that we're very proactive about. We will call the listing agent if it is most of the time it's a multiple offer situation, and we'll make sure that they know that our borrower is well qualified, that we can close in 7 days with no problem, and they have nothing to worry about. Well, if you have a Quicken Loans pre-approval, same deal, closing in 35 days, you're not going to win that. Even if you have a Carlton Bank or something, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like the same. Even if you have a First Community Credit Union, it's just not the same as an independent broker with the experience that we have. So I know that deals are won too by the power of that pre-approval and the experience that the agents have with those companies.
Yeah, that makes me think of at least 3 topics to explore with respect to the pre-approval and the accompanying offer. One would be the loan contingency. I know we spend a lot of time collecting information, reviewing documents, particularly in advance of offers, with the hope that our borrowers can be buyers with their first offer. We want to turn borrowers into buyers. You're just an anticipatory borrower until you have an accepted offer. So we want that purgatory of buying to be very short. And we do that by making sure that pre-approval is as tight as it can be, so that if our clients want to make an offer and eliminate the loan contingency, they're in a position to do that. I mean, that is a checklist point that strengthens an offer. Then you look like a cash buyer.
Right. I mean, one of the biggest things is there has been a huge return back to the auto industry from the loan officer industry in the past year. Not faulting them, and everybody needs to eat. Well, the same thing kind of with the real estate agents. Real estate agents are working very, very hard for every deal, and their time is valuable, but they also need a paycheck. I mean, this is commission. So think about if you're a listing agent and you have an offer that comes across your table that they could get paid in 7 days as opposed to they're getting paid in 35 or 40 days. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And they'll be able to, they need it.
Yeah, it reduces the stress for both parties involved, and the lender has absorbed a lot of that stress by doing the work up front, helping those clients become prepared. Another aspect of being prepared is the more things you feel comfortable eliminating on your contract and make it as clean and as attractive as possible, that's a sign of preparation. You don't do that without preparation, So we talked about loan commitment and the loan contingency. The other thing I was thinking of is, and you talked about it, Bill, like having that communication with the listing agent. There are, I think, of 2 facets of that. One is, we have a habit of, if that listing agent hasn't reached out to us, we reach out to that listing agent, or even the prospective listing agent, the one who's just receiving those offers tonight. We need to get all those offers in at 5 p.m. If our offer has been made, our client's offer has been made, then we're on the phone with that listing agent.
Right.
And you described that as, we're not going to say they're well qualified if they're not well qualified. So we're looking at those opportunities to enhance how attractive our clients look as they're reviewing 10 or 15 or 20 offers, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and it goes down to, the community banks and the different banks that they got every product in America. They're primarily focused on deposits and relationships. There's wonderful banks here in St. Louis that are community banks, but they're not geared towards the mortgage. They're not geared towards, that's not all they do every day. They get that as an added service to really your deposits. Well, a lot of these banks are dealing with shortages of deposits and problems. Cracks are happening too. So again, with the independent broker, we have multiple channels to shop the best deal. We have banks that are super quick. We have banks that might be better with an adjustable rate mortgage, or better with, they might have a better deal, but it's a 20-day closing over here, and you're okay with that, so we'll do that, or whatever it is. We can shop a multitude of banks. Well, you might run into trouble if you just have a single bank. And community banks are in the hot seat a little bit right now. So that's another thing to be, like, if I was a listing agent, I might not be taking a community bank's pre-approval at this point when some of the very largest banks are not being able to fulfill their deposit requirements and needing help from the Fed right now. So a lot of mortgage companies, Keller Mortgage, gone. A lot of mortgage. Keller Mortgage. Come on, like the Keller Mortgage, they should be okay, but they're not.
Right.
They're gone. Home Point, a big talk about Home Point Financial. Plenty of mortgage companies are going out too. Quicken's laying off people. Better Mortgage went from 11,000 to under 1,000 employees over a 2-year period. 11,000 employees to under 1,000. That's not really the pre-approval I want to take at that point.
No, and we frequently in these episodes have hammered on some common themes, and they include preparation and agility. And again, today we kind of, obviously we're talking about that, but we are also talking about it in the framework of not doing, we got to get away from some traditional things that aren't working. We have to identify new, that happens. History is replete with circumstances in which successful organizations and individuals get away from what is traditional and what is accepted and this is how we've always done it. So we need to get away from that. So the third kind of bullet point I want to talk about when I'm talking about the pinnacle pre-approval is, I talked about, we talked about the loan commitment, and we talked about perhaps contacting that listing agent. Another kind of a tweak, perhaps, it's very simple. It seems simple, but we don't think it's being done in a lot of situations, is encouraging the buyer's agent to reach out to the listing agent, not just to say, I'm making my offer, not just to say what might get this done, but to express gratitude, express excitement for the prospect of working with that person. Humility and compliments go a long way. And if we just encourage that kind of collegiality among people in the industry, I think that will go a long way towards just sending an email and hoping the deal gets done that way.
Right. I also want to motivate agents. You're the front line a lot of times out there with these large transactions that are happening in our state, and with the investors, with BlackRock and Vanguard, and them eating up these single-family residential homes with their cash. Don't just look at that deal right then and there. Think about the community for a second, because that money is leaving our community. It's going to the big investors from Wall Street, and it is not staying here. In fact, our money is inflated rents that now our citizens are having to pay to these big, giant Wall Street, mega firms that does not help really us as a state. So yeah, cash offer looks good. We could close the deal in 7 days. We're all here. If you do a cash offer from an investor, well, that's kind of like the worst thing we could do for our community, is to take a big mega investor that comes in and rents to our neighbors a high inflated rent. We get pushed around already too much in society. We have the ability to pick who buys that house or not. Don't take that offer. You have plenty of offers. We can match offers. But when you see these large investors come through, please think twice about that. That is not good for your community that you're living in, to be selling half the neighborhood's renting. That's not helping us. There's plenty of buyers that are qualified. We can close it in 7 days. But most of the time, that's even faster than the cash buyers. It's faster than they can do it. So yeah. They got to get all their ducks in a row. I've heard, that it's not that quick.
Well, sure. They might have to liquidate from accounts and get that kind of authority. That's going to take time. But I think you make a great point with respect to not only just the local resources, but those relationships get fostered, they get nourished locally, and that generally has a way of working itself out for all of us down the road in different aspects. I know I think you're referring specifically to the sellers as they're evaluating those offers, and take a look at which offer you're receiving from. I'm talking about from a banking perspective, because it gives you that confidence, A, that it's going to get done, and B, of course, that you are contributing to the community.
Absolutely. I mean, what is that? And I'm not saying I want everybody to pay off their mortgage, and I want everybody to be able to go in and purchase a home with cash, and to be able to do that that would actually help tremendously in Missouri if we all paid off our mortgages, stopped paying the interest to the big banks. Then we could keep that money in here. So if you get a cash offer from obviously somebody downsizing and they sold their house, they got cash, that's fine. That's great for the community. That's all good. Please just look at. I mean, if these investors are from California, if it truly, and they all have different names too. Like, it's not going to say BlackRock, but it's still a BlackRock subsidiary.
Yeah,
most of them are, and Vanguard. Just if it's a big investment firm that's buying up our residential properties that we already have a low inventory, well, you're basically just helping them bully us around and having our money go to them. That's it.
And you might actually see us at the closing too.
Yeah, it's true.
And one of the things too, just about our office is that you're talking to most of our office today. We're just we got our processors, but we own our building, and we're trying to just that was our mission, to create a great opportunity for ourselves, but also, we can only have that through keeping prices down and being fast and agile with respect to our clients, when it makes sense. So those 10-day closings or 7-day closings that we're talking about, those are in place as a result of the agility and preparation we did, and we're trying to pass that along. If in some cases though, the 10-day closing is not going to be attractive to a seller. So that's going to be another thing about being prepared, knowing what is interesting to your seller. And, we've talked about, especially if maybe the seller has not, whether they're building a home, they have a job opportunity that's not developing for a couple of months, or whatever the case may be that requires them to be in that home for longer than what's traditional, again, maybe that 30-day period. We need to consider alternatives to that. And maybe your offer, since you're aware of that, based on that relationship between the agents or yourself and your lender, whatever the case may be, you might come to include in a clause in your offer about allowing the seller to rent the house back post-closing. That's, again, non-traditional offer provision, but that's available. And we've had to do that.
For sure.
So, we've touched on a number of different kind of strategies, and I think one of the simplest ones, but of course deals with that, attacks the emotion of the process, is just doing something genuine from a handwritten standpoint. And perhaps a lot of these, what you write to the seller or the listing agent is not confined to the corners of that St. Louis Association of Realtors form. A handwritten letter can be very valuable. Don't take it for granted. Don't think it's trivial. We encourage people to do that all the time. I know I've done that on my own homes, and I happen to live in.
It helps, and I think that's the big thing about. It's a big push that we're going to continue to push on, that we've always have, is support your local community. It's really become nearly 50% of all home purchases right now are investment properties, many of them being cash and many of them being out-of-town investment company. That is not helping anyone here. Think about it. All of those payments do not stay here. They go to a different state. So even if it was an investor from here, well, that investor's then spending money at the Cybergs, and they're spending money at Dobbs to fix their car and going to the ball games and stuff here. That's great. It's not helping anything to sell houses to any foreign entities from Missouri. It's not helping us, So that big buyer pool that is investment buyers. Please be aware of where they are from. And let's stop that. Let's stop them buying up places in Missouri.
And as you're
And if Bill Gates is coming in to try to buy some property, don't sell it to Bill Gates.
No offense to Bill. Right?
No.
We love Bills.
No, love him, but he's got enough, and he's not going to have. It's not going to help.
Yeah, we understand. We appreciate you guys listening, and we know time is valuable, and that was really the essence of this episode, to recognize the value of time and energy, and to try to transfer that energy into a meaningful process that's going to make your time efficient and well spent when you make that offer. You consider this checklist. It works for us. Hell, we implement it on a daily basis. We just did it. Today's Monday. We implemented it. We had to do it on a situation for an offer to be made the Saturday, the day before Easter. Followed this checklist, got the deal, offer accepted. So it works. We're not just creating these things. We realize though that not everyone is performing all these, and it's not. You almost need to consider each suggestion in each offer and whether they make sense to win the deal and to use your time very well. If you're looking, you want the house. If you're scared, you're not prepared. So,
nice, Ryan.
Thank you.
Real quick, I'm going to drop something too, which I always wanted to say. I was new to the industry, little under 10 years ago or so, and people help you out. Veterans of the game help you out. But if there's new agents out there and you need some help on the financing side, you're not going to make it unless you have like somebody who really knows how to navigate through this right now. Give me a call. My cell phone, it's on our website, thepinnacleloans.com. You can also just call me at 314-497-5037. Any agents, call me. You got questions, how to win a contract, I can help you out, along the way. And I always love helping people newer to the industry. But I'm telling you right now, if you're not prepared, you're spinning your wheels. This isn't the time to get in, unless you have a good team. So please do not hesitate to reach out. You can text me as well and ask any questions and help you out.
Thanks. Please subscribe to where you download your podcasts, the Mortgage and Real Estate Podcast by Pinnacle.
Thank you.